Hello everyone and welcome back to the Property Maintenance Sucks podcast. My name is Anna. You probably have seen me if you are a Tapi customer, but you may not have seen me otherwise. I head up the customer success team here, but it's not about me. It's about this amazing guy here. Brett Wheatland is our guest today. He is not only the GM of one of the most well-respected agencies in Adelaide, but he also has an amazing consultancy business that services loads of amazing people in Adelaide. So welcome, Brett.
Thank you very much for having me.
The ultimate cool guy, as you can probably see with the
It was
specs.
a big night last night.
It's also really sunny in Brisbane
we
today.
haven't seen sun at all, let's be honest.
It's been absolutely pissing down. So from SA, Brett has brought a really special tipple with him.
Yeah.
Sponsored.
Yeah, so this is not brand affiliated whatsoever. This is the Turkey Flat Rosé, now available in tinnies. For those that want it, it's the 2023. Do you mind if I?
Yeah, by all means, please do.
Because it could be tainted, so we have to be. But that's lovely.
Prepared.
I heard that you don't mind a bit of booze.
No, not at all. I mean, in my line of work,
It's a shame you can't have any.
You have to put it on your CV, you know?
So that's this is part of Adelaide. You're drinking Adelaide.
A little bit of Adelaide.
Yeah, you're talking to Adelaide and you're drinking Adelaide.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we are here to talk about this lovely thing that we've got on the wall, property maintenance, and how much it sucks.
Love it.
So I guess to kick us off, why do you think property maintenance sucks so much?
I think it just takes up too much time.
Mm-hmm.
It takes up too much time. That's time you could be doing other important things. Drinking wine,
Boozing.
talking, doing
Chatting.
podcasts, doing fun things, building things.
Yeah. How much time do you think it actually takes up in a property manager's day?
Well, for me, not much anymore because obviously we're a user of the product.
This is not about Tapi.
No,
this
no,
is
no,
about
no, no,
maintenance
but
in general, but yeah.
So it's hard because we've been on board for a long time. So we do things differently in our business as well. But I think generally going into other businesses, I see it as a huge pinch point.
Yeah.
Because you can do maintenance so many different ways, internally, externally, software, whatever technology. But it's a massive component.
Yeah.
It's 40-50%.
And we will go into your consultancy business, I think, later on in the pod. But I think that's super interesting. Would you say that it's generally one of the bigger problems that people have when they come in? Yeah,
I think it's probably a large component, and it's not just actually the process of it and the policy and procedures a business can have. It's actually just the nuts and bolts of understanding different types of maintenance as well, because you've basically got to be a tradie to be a property manager these days.
Absolutely.
You've got to know what a hot water service is. You've got to know what solar array panels are. You just got to know everything. Breach of valves and cop balls and float
like the
valves
legislation as well, which if
Compliance.
anyone has ever seen you speak about anything to do with compliance, I don't know how you make it sound interesting, but you do. It's really quite good. But there's that level too. Like it takes quite a lot to upskill somebody green into the industry.
Yeah, hugely.
What do you advise people generally on the best ways that people can get?
It's, I think, experience, unfortunately. It's one of those things that you have to do the time. I'm one of those people that likes to dissect everything when it comes to that part of the business, to understand it. So I think when something's happened in my journey in property management, I've wanted to learn more about it. Okay, why is the solar not working? What could possibly be wrong? How does it work? How's it connected? What are the moving parts of the puzzle? Yeah. So that you can understand it. And to learn every part of a property or an apartment complex or a townhouse or whatever, you've just got to do the time. Yeah. Or be able to tap into someone that can share that with you. Yeah. I was probably lucky that I was brought up in that environment. So, and as a guy, I've got an interest. I like getting my hands in the shed
understanding
and
how things actually work
and stuff. Yeah, love that stuff. So getting the shed and have a tipple around in there too, which is good.
And I mean, like, there's so much turnover. And again, we can kind of like talk about this a little bit later on, but there is so much turnover in this industry specifically. Yeah. And not everyone has the, like,
I think, Now we're getting serious.
Now we're getting quite serious.
Well,
the glasses come off.
You know what? I'll take them off.
Okay, sorry. It's a little bit too serious for afternoon rosés.
Yeah, it can be a big pinch point of pressure, I think, because you're not just balancing a relationship between landlord and tenant. You have to understand what you're talking about, and you've got to share and educate landlords and tenants about things. Yeah,
that's totally it. Like surfacing the information to them, but then also because you can't advise them too much.
No,
to an extent, you can.
I like to overshare, but if you have that knowledge, but I think some property managers also they fumble around it a bit because they don't know the answer. And I think as a property manager, you're expected to know everything.
Yeah.
But sometimes the landlords, they may be a tradie or they may have that history that they know about. So sometimes they already have that knowledge base. Yeah. But as a property manager, if you're entering into discussions about hot water services or whatever, you do need to know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll get friction back saying, why don't you know, that's your job.
Absolutely,
you get paid to do
and the
that.
trust breakdown.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Yeah, and it makes your relationship hard with the landlord because you lose that. And it's a friction point.
Yeah.
It's a friction point with the landlord and the tenant.
To make it slightly less serious.
Sorry.
No, that was completely on me. We went down a serious road quite early. But what I'm really keen to know, and we was just talking about it, we've got this little Tapi bar in our office which has all of the maintenance horror stories on the walls.
Yep.
Which is really fun. Like at events, we go out, ask people what their horror stories are, we get it back. People get booze, as you can see, a little bit of a theme. But what I'd love to know is what your worst, that you've heard of or that's happened to you, what's your worst maintenance horror story?
Well, there's lots. Probably the worst one that was
apart from the
scale.
Ones today.
Yeah, we've talked about stuff today, which we can't disclose.
We can't talk about on the pod.
Talk about that shit. So no amount of booze is going to allow that conversation to ever occur again. Probably the most complicated, because worst is, what's worst? Like bad, terrible.
Yeah.
To me, it's complicated.
Yeah.
We've all had block shitters and hot waters blow up and roofs fall in and balconies fall over and cars go through lounge room walls.
Which is also crazy, if you actually just think about it. The magnitude of the stories, everyone has gone through that, which I think is so wild. We work with these people who manage millions of dollars worth of assets and everyone's had cars go through the garage and like you've just said, that's insane. If that actually happened to you as an individual at any time in your life, you'd be floored.
So probably for me, ground zero, house burned down. So relatively complicated maintenance situation.
Yeah.
Obviously the rebuilding's a thing, but when it happened, how it happened and the consequences and the flow-on from that, and then holding the landlord's hand in that process from start to finish, and then laid with complexity of legalities and liabilities, not just what happened here, how did the house burn down, what caused it, was it negligence, was it failure? Probably that one sticks in my head.
Yeah, it would do.
Yeah, and a multi-million-dollar house as well.
What was the cause of the fire? Can you say?
I can. So, and the tenants were home at the time.
Yeah.
It was caused by the children, unfortunately, cooking toast in the kitchen, in the appliance cupboard. Faulty toaster. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, but luckily, and this is where compliance comes into play, and the importance of it as well is that smoke alarms went off, went through that process, and it was all navigated really, really well.
Yeah.
But it was a nightmare to deal and manage bringing it all back.
Where do you even start? What does that first phone call go like to the landlord?
Basically the tenant was, I've got some bad news. There's been a house fire. And of course you just go, oh, okay, whatever.
Like a little...
Yeah, you're cool, calm, collected guy that made the call, so I didn't stress out about it. Immediately you think safety, security, people, obviously the most important thing. And at that point we didn't know what had happened, how it occurred, where it started, all that sort of thing. But immediately what triggers in your brain as a property manager, just... hyper enlightened, and I remember freaking out, and I didn't sleep for days, even though it's not my property. Yeah. But as the property manager, did the smoke alarm go off?
Yeah.
Do I have compliance check on that?
Yeah.
Was there electrical issues in the property I didn't know about? Was there maintenance that was reported that I didn't check? All this shit. Is the insurance in place?
Yeah.
But that's another story with that property altogether. Save that for another segment.
Yeah.
I literally struggled to sleep for a couple of days because I had no
really
answers.
scary.
I didn't have the answers.
Yeah.
For probably the first time in a long time. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So, yeah.
So I guess the first learning is to go into that being super calm.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the surface at least.
First thing, reach for the wine,
Yeah.
pour a glass,
Yeah.
give yourself a minute, have a breathe.
Yeah. And so when you called the landlord,
So the
or did
landlord,
you see them in person?
Yeah, so this
or?
landlord lived in this house. This was their family home that
Okay.
they had left as a rental.
Okay.
That they had given to us to manage because the previous agent didn't do a very good job. So already setting the scene for, here's the property, here's the management agreement, please don't burn my house down.
Yeah.
Next minute.
Yeah. They're already having...
I've already hey, guess what? Landlord lived overseas.
Yeah.
Complicated, so time zone difference. They're in London. So
that's
can't
really
even
different.
pick up the phone and ring.
No.
Had to wait until, whatever, it
all
was
the
5 o'clock
lines.
here to get them at 6
Yeah,
a.m.
it's
over there.
really bad time zones.
And then, of course, that wasn't a priority for them at the time. They were holidaying, so they didn't find out for quite a few days.
Oh, no. And so you were just trying to make it as small as possible.
Stuck. Like, shit, what do I do? I don't have authority. I don't know. I've gone straight for insurance. I'm going through the checklist that you do from a maintenance perspective.
Yeah.
Liability, where does this stand? Liability, headache.
Yeah. And in the meantime, do you put the tenants up somewhere?
That's right. So tenant's got to go in the hotel.
Yeah.
How long for? Who knows?
And we don't know whether that's covered by insurance. We don't have insurance.
So many unknowns.
Right.
Like,
so yeah, this is actually a proper horror story. Like we get
probably, yeah.
all sorts of like funny ones, but this is actually quite serious. And the thing is that people will be faced with horror stories like this throughout their careers.
Learning curve.
100%.
Biggest learning curve, yeah. And I had personally not had to travel that path before for a house fire. So we actually used that as a learning platform for the rest of the team as well.
Yeah.
So we actually did a field trip back to the property.
Yes.
A couple of days or weeks later, it was probably a couple of weeks later, like, hey team, in the car,
Yeah.
let's go have a look at a burnt property. Smoky
Smoke
barbecue
alarms are
vibes.
really important.
Bring the brisket, like cold smoke the tomatoes. It was perfect. So yeah, field trip, off we went, grabbed the coffee and opened the door.
Oh, wow.
Walked through to show the devastation.
Yeah.
And get a
Because that
feel.
makes it real as well, because you can have these kinds of conversations and there's like all this theoretical kind of roll up, but
I didn't realise the fire engines come in and just spray fucking water everywhere. How about
how
that?
much that would ruin everything as well.
Everything else is fucked. The ceiling's falling in now. The electrical needs to be ripped
Jesus.
out. Oh,
Okay.
look, the floor's buckling. This is going to be fun.
Do you still manage this landlord's property?
No, they moved back in.
They moved back. Well,
After we cleaned it up.
yeah, well, that's still a good outcome.
Yeah, it was. Lucky there was insurance,
Yeah.
which we didn't know about.
And that's a whole other thing, right? Yeah.
And yeah, kitchen upgrade, fantastic. And then they said, we'll leave it empty. So insurance covered rent until rebuilt, tenants relocated. Tenants were amazing about the whole thing as well.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest saviour.
Oh,
And
yeah.
have a good relationship with your people and they won't try and fuck you.
Yeah, that's it. That's 100% it.
Simple.
It's all about the people bits.
Yep.
First.
Yep. And building that trust.
Yeah.
And in that situation where you have a worst case scenario, if you can lean on that ability to have those people in your hands,
Yeah. Then you're
so
sorted.
much easier. So much easier. No headaches.
Okay, well, cheers to no more fires.
Yes, no more house fires. And check your smoke alarm when you get home.
Check your smoke alarms. When I actually think that Plumber John's taken it out of the ceiling, so I have to put that one
I need
back
to
in.
sort him out.
I do.
This is a story about a tenant with a leaky repair that caused him the utmost despair. A property manager trying to relax on a Sunday afternoon when the phone began to ring to cause her the deepest gloom. A landlord and his friend having a drink to celebrate their success, only to receive a call about an absolute mess.
G'day, Cobb. Crikey, how much? Have you tried troubleshooting? I'll need at least 10 quotes for that. Go ahead with it then.
A tradie just trying to get enough work to have some fun.
Leaky tap. I'm not qualified for that. Except.
But when he's out there, he misses the parts to get the job done.
Wish they told me about this before they sent me out here.
This is not a Tappy story, because with Tappy, this story would never be told.
The quote.